Do you need something to destroy your players out at sea? Well, I got just the thing. Homegrown, no GMOs, free-range sea serpent. Let's get crafty. Welcome to another episode of Franky D Crafter. Thank you so much for joining me on another miniature build. I had the community choose my next build. The Sea Serpent was the winner by a lot. I hope you enjoy my take on it. Let's get right into it. I start off by crafting the head, and then depending on the size of the head, I like to choose how big I'd like to make the body. We want to start by getting a small bowl of aluminum, slowly start shaping it into the top half of the head. Make sure to keep one side flat and indented to make the roof of the mouth. I also just poke some holes just to keep track of where I want the eyes to be. And also, you want to poke holes where you're gonna attach the teeth. We'll be using the tips of toothpicks for this. Just hot glue them in. I went with 8 teeth for the top jaw. After I was done gluing them in, I realized that they were too long for my liking, and I ended up trimming them just a bit. While working on the Sea Serpent, I knew I wanted to make the bottom jaw a lot bigger than the top jaw. I was working from an old drawing that I then reworked into a new sketch. I wanted to go for a Sea Serpent, but add a little bit of Godzilla flair to it. You let me know how I did. Let me know if I succeeded or not. Once you have the shape for your bottom jaw, repeat the steps you did for the top. Poke holes in the jaw, and hot glue the teeth in, and then cut them to the appropriate size. Using skewers, we're gonna add spikes to the side of the jaws. Again, it's just the same process as the teeth. Using these techniques later on, we'll be able to make dragons. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's master these skills first. It's time to get our hands dirty with a little bit of clay right now. You want to start by rolling a thin string of clay. We're going to be using this as our lips. After that, cover the bottom half with clay. Make sure to blend the clay into the spikes. Let's go back to the top half. You will need pearl beads for the eyes. Glue them using hot glue. Here I'm making a hole for where I want the nose to be. This next part is more of a thing I add to my sea serpents. Growing up, I would always read stories about how sea serpents would sink ships. I figured that over time, their skulls would adapt and evolve to be stronger and stronger. I guess this is my take on evolution in a fantasy world. After that, you want to add the clay to the rest of your head. It's pretty much the same steps as before until you get to the eyes. When you get to the eyes, think about the bone structure and slowly build up. We want this guy to look as angry as possible, so we're gonna give him some big brow bones. And let's not forget about the cheekbones. Allow the clay to fully dry, and while it dries, we can work on the body. I'm using pink styrofoam to work on the skeleton of the serpent. I cut 3 blocks and hot glue them at an angle using skewers. I then wrap aluminum foil around the pink styrofoam and add hot glue to all the ends. Poke a hole where you would like to attach the top half of the head. Then poke a hole on the back of the serpent's head and hot glue the skewer to it. Put hot glue on the hole you made on the body and attach the sea serpent's head to it. Add extra hot glue on the sides where they attach for a little bit of support. Once I attached the top of the head, I realized that I needed to change the angle where I was to attach the bottom jaw. So I cut it and then added aluminum foil and did basically the same thing as before with the hot glue. The bottom jaw was not thick enough for me to stick a skewer through it, so I figured I'd use crazy glue and baking soda to attach it. Now that the head is attached, we will continue the bottom jaw spikes up the neck. And then using serial cardboard, cut out a shape that connects both jaws. Once you hot glue it in, cover it with clay and add stripes to it. You want to continue the lip of the bottom jaw all the way up to the last spike using clay. I start to add clay to the serpent, and then I noticed I don't like how skinny it looks. So I use some aluminum and add some volume to the body. After that, I start to add skewers to the back of the serpent. This will be used to support the coral-like spikes later on. And now, I was at a point where I thought it was okay for me to finish covering the serpent with clay. Once it was all covered, it was time to define the bottom jaw by using clay. And right after that, I add the gills. Roll up a thick string of clay and then blend it only on the side that's facing the jaw. You want at least 3 gills. Let's finish the head off by adding the lips to the top half of the head using a string of clay. Now on to the coral spikes. We're gonna cut shapes out of cereal box cardboard. For my serpent, I cut out 6 coral-like shapes. I then hot glue them to the skewers on the back of the serpent. Slowly, layer by layer, add volume by using the hot glue gun. Do this to all 6 of the spikes until they're the size that you'd like them to be. And if you have a lot of strings from the hot glue gun, just use a lighter to get rid of them. For the base, we're using styrofoam board. Cut out the right size circle and then round off the corners of one side. Then hot glue your mini onto the base. And then I make sure to add hot glue around the serpent. We will be adding water effects to the base. Get your watered down PVA glue and toilet paper ready. Soak the toilet paper and add it all around where the base and the serpent meet. After that, we will be adding waves. You want to shape the waves before you attach them to the mini. And it's that simple. Off to the priming. I primer using Black Magic Crafts Mod Podge mix. Then I give a second coating of gray to the whole thing. I try to get more coverage on the spots that I know will be lighter. After that, I add my basic tones for each area of the sea serpent. Turquoise for the body, blue for the sea, and yellow for the spikes. Oh, and dark red for the mouth. Water effects for the base are very simple. Cover the base with a dark blue, then choose a lighter blue and dry brush it on top. After that, light brush the white onto some areas, but mostly use the white to highlight the ends of the waves. What I'm thinking of doing in the future is making shorter videos in between that concentrate on doing specific details. So keep a lookout for videos that I'll be making to teach you how to make waves, for instance, or how to craft the tail of a serpent. Subscribe to stay updated. I also want to take this time to give a community shout out. First of all, big thanks to Crafts and Minis. If you haven't checked out his channel here on YouTube, you're missing out. But wait until you're done with this first. Another channel to check out is Wargaming Lobby. He has some interesting tips there for crafters, and also you can find him on Twitter. And lastly, here on YouTube, check out Bart's Craft. This guy is amazing. You won't believe the stuff he's able to do with just paper. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Now, if you help me and you didn't hear a shout out for you, you will probably be on the next episode. I tend to work on like 3 projects at a time, and I guess I would feel overwhelmed if it wasn't for the community. I feel like painting is still my biggest obstacle, but tips from Crafts and Minis, and even Spider Dog Crafting on Twitter, the obstacles just seem that much smaller. Another thing, if any project here seems a bit too complicated, check me out on Twitter. I love to interact with the community, and I would love to help you through it. I would love to see these crafts on your table. Now back to the craft. I tend to talk about other things over the painting process because I don't want to give off the idea that I know what I'm doing. But recently I bought acrylic inks and I have to say that they made my painting job 10 times easier. Here, I use light blue mixed with white to paint shadows under the sea serpent. They are so easy to blend into each other and into other colors. And instead of solid black, I'll be using this purple lake color. It gives an extra flair to your shadows. I don't know how well it comes off in camera, but in person it makes every difference. I urge you to try these paints. I only use these paints on the final coat. For instance, I use a waterfall green to finish off this green on the sea serpent. It almost applied like a wash, but it gave it a nice shine. You just have to be careful because they don't dry as fast. I ended up making the mistake of not letting the paint dry before moving on to painting the next area. I ended up smudging the paint and had to repaint certain areas, but that's really on me. Overall, I'm very happy with the paints and the paint job. Let me know what you think, and let me know what your favorite paints are in the comment section below. If you would like to support the channel even further, check out my Patreon page. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you. Catch you on the flippity side.